Imagine a world where rain doesn't fall as water, but as liquid methane, where rivers of natural gas carve through landscapes of frozen water ice harder than granite, where the atmosphere is so thick, so dense, that if you stood on the surface, you could strap on wings and fly like a bird through orange alien skies. This isn't science fiction. This is Titan, Saturn's largest moon, and it may be hiding something extraordinary. What if I told you that beneath Titan's frozen crust lies an ocean larger than all of Earth's seas combined? What if ancient myths about worlds encased in ice weren't just stories, but memories? What if we're not the first civilization to look up at the stars and wonder, are we alone? Today, we're diving into one of the cosmos' most tantalizing mysteries. Could Titan, this frozen world orbiting Saturn, harbor evidence of lost civilizations? Could life, perhaps even intelligence, exist in the most unlikely place in our solar system? Welcome to Myths of the Cosmos. Let's begin our journey into the frozen unknown.
Before we venture into the depths of speculation, we need to understand what makes Titan so profoundly unique. Because this moon, this distant world, breaks every rule we thought we knew about where life could exist. Titan is the second largest moon in our solar system, larger even than the planet Mercury. It's the only moon with a substantial atmosphere, a thick nitrogen-rich envelope that would feel strangely familiar to us because it's remarkably similar to early Earth. But there's a catch. Titan is cold, devastatingly cold. Surface temperatures hover around -290 degrees Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, water ice becomes as hard as bedrock. Methane and ethane, gases on Earth, rain from Titan's skies and pool into vast lakes and seas. When NASA's Cassini spacecraft and the Huygens probe gave us our first detailed look at Titan between 2004 and 2017, scientists were stunned. The images revealed a world that looked hauntingly Earth-like. There were river channels, coastlines, islands, and vast dune fields stretching across the equator. But instead of water, liquid hydrocarbons flow through these channels. Instead of silicate sand, the dunes are made of organic particles, the building blocks of life, raining down from the atmosphere. Dr. Jonathan Lunine, a planetary scientist at Cornell University, called Titan a world that looks like Earth but is made of completely different materials. It's as if the universe took Earth's blueprint and built it with an entirely alien chemistry. But here's where things truly get fascinating. Beneath Titan's icy shell, detected through gravitational measurements and careful analysis of the moon's rotation, lies a subsurface ocean of liquid water mixed with ammonia and salts. This ocean is estimated to be over 60 miles deep, containing more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. And where there's liquid water, even hidden beneath miles of ice, there's the potential for life. Now, you might be thinking, this is about science, proven facts, measurements, and data. Where do myths come into this? That's the beautiful mystery we're about to explore. because throughout human history, long before we had telescopes or spacecraft, cultures around the world told stories about frozen worlds, about civilizations that existed in ages of ice, about knowledge hidden in the cold depths of the cosmos. Were these stories just imagination, or were they somehow memories of something real?
Let's travel back in time, not just centuries, but millennia, to the myths and legends that speak of ice, of frozen worlds, of ages when the Earth itself was locked in cosmic winter. Norse mythology speaks of Niflheim, the primordial world of ice that existed before creation. It was from the collision of ice and fire that the cosmos itself was born, and the first beings emerged from the frozen void. The Norse believed that the universe would end in Fimbulwinter, a great winter lasting 3 years with no summer in between, followed by Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. But the Norse weren't alone in their ice mythology. The ancient Vedic texts of India speak of yugas, great cosmic cycles, including periods where the world was covered in ice and darkness. Greek mythology tells of the Titan Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods to save humanity from a frozen fate. The name itself, Titan, connects this mythological tradition to Saturn's mysterious moon. The Hindu tradition speaks of Mount Meru, a cosmic mountain made of crystalline materials, surrounded by frozen realms at the edge of the world. Tibetan Buddhism describes Shambhala, a hidden kingdom preserved in ice, where advanced wisdom awaits rediscovery. Even indigenous peoples of the Americas preserved stories of ice ages, of times when the world was frozen and their ancestors had to survive in unimaginable cold. The Inuits speak of the time before time, when the sun barely rose and the world was locked in eternal winter. These myths share common threads: civilizations existing in frozen conditions, knowledge preserved through ages of ice, and the idea that cold worlds might harbor life or consciousness in forms we don't expect. Now here's where it gets interesting. Modern science has confirmed that Earth has indeed experienced multiple ice ages. The most recent glacial period ended only about 11,700 years ago. During these ice ages, massive civilizations could have risen and fallen, leaving barely a trace. The evidence would be buried under ice, crushed by glaciers, or submerged beneath rising seas when the ice finally melted. Graham Hancock and other alternative historians have long argued that there's a missing chapter in human history, that advanced civilizations existed before the ice ages, and their knowledge was lost when the world froze over. While mainstream archaeology disputes many of these claims, the question remains tantalizing. What if some of our ancient myths aren't myths at all, but distorted memories? And what if these myths aren't just about Earth? What if some ancient cultures had a way of perceiving, or understanding, or somehow knowing about worlds beyond our own? Worlds like Titan, where ice isn't a catastrophe, but the natural state of existence. The ancient Greek philosopher Anaxagoras was exiled for suggesting that the sun was not a god, but a hot stone, and that other worlds existed in the cosmos. He proposed that the moon was an Earth-like world with mountains and valleys. For this, he was considered a heretic, but he was right. What else might the ancients have been right about?
Let's shift from myth to science, because what we've discovered about Titan is just as extraordinary as any ancient story. Titan's atmosphere is 95% nitrogen, with about 5% methane and traces of other organic compounds. This methane is constantly being broken down by sunlight and Saturn's magnetosphere, creating a complex organic chemistry in the atmosphere. This process produces molecules called tholins, reddish-brown organic compounds that rain down onto Titan's surface, coating everything in a layer of prebiotic chemistry. Here's the remarkable part. These tholins are chemically similar to the compounds that scientists believe existed on early Earth before life began. Titan's atmosphere is essentially a laboratory, running the same chemical experiments that may have led to life on our planet, but in a frozen, alien environment. On Earth, life as we know it requires liquid water, but scientists are increasingly convinced that life doesn't have to be as we know it. There's a growing field called astrobiology that studies the possibility of life based on different chemistries. And Titan is the perfect place to test these ideas. In Titan's lakes and seas of liquid methane and ethane, scientists have theorized about the possibility of life forms that use liquid hydrocarbons the way we use water. These hypothetical organisms would breathe hydrogen instead of oxygen and metabolize acetylene instead of glucose. They would have cell membranes made of compounds that remain flexible at minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit. Sound impossible? In 2015, scientists at Cornell University actually modeled a hypothetical cell membrane that could work in liquid methane. They called it an azotosome, and computer simulations showed it had the same stability and flexibility as our own cell membranes, just built for an entirely different environment. But the real mystery lies beneath the ice. That subsurface ocean, hidden under Titan's frozen crust, exists in a more familiar environment. The water there, mixed with ammonia, which acts as antifreeze, could be warm enough to support life as we know it. Radioactive decay in Titan's core, combined with tidal heating from Saturn's gravity, could provide energy. Hydrothermal vents, like those that support ecosystems in Earth's deepest oceans, could exist on Titan's seafloor. The Cassini mission detected molecular hydrogen in the plumes erupting from Enceladus, another moon of Saturn. This hydrogen suggests hydrothermal activity. If Enceladus has hydrothermal vents, why not Titan? And if Earth's deep ocean vents can support complex ecosystems in complete darkness, feeding on chemical energy rather than sunlight, why couldn't the same happen beneath Titan's ice? Here's the thought that should make you pause. Life on Earth began in the oceans. We have evidence of microbial life going back at least 3.5 billion years, possibly as far back as 4.1 billion years. That means life emerged relatively quickly after Earth's formation. If life can arise that readily when conditions are right, and if Titan has had liquid water beneath its surface for potentially billions of years, then the odds of something living there become disturbingly non-zero. But we're not just asking if microbes could exist on Titan. We're asking something far more provocative. Could anything complex, anything intelligent, have ever evolved there?
Now we enter the realm of speculation. But let's be clear, informed speculation based on scientific principles. Could Titan have harbored a civilization? And if so, what would it look like? First, let's address the obvious objection. Titan is freezing cold, receives barely any sunlight, and has no oxygen. How could intelligence possibly evolve there? But consider this. Intelligence evolved on Earth not because of our specific chemistry, but because of environmental challenges that rewarded problem solving, tool use, and social cooperation. Intelligence is an adaptation, a solution to survival challenges. If Titan's subsurface ocean has existed for billions of years, and if life arose there, then evolution would have had time to work its magic. On Earth, intelligence has emerged multiple times in completely different lineages. Octopuses evolved intelligence separately from mammals and birds. Their neurons are distributed throughout their bodies, and they perceive the world in ways we're only beginning to understand. They can solve complex puzzles, use tools, and display what appears to be consciousness. Yet their last common ancestor with us was a simple worm-like creature over 500 million years ago. This tells us something profound. Intelligence is not a fluke. It's a solution that evolution discovers repeatedly when the environment makes it advantageous. Now, imagine Titan's subsurface ocean. It's dark, yes, but Earth's deep oceans are dark too, and they teem with life. It's cold, but not as cold as the surface. The water temperature might be around 32 degrees Fahrenheit at the ice-water boundary, rising to potentially 50 degrees or more near hydrothermal vents. That's cold by our standards. But remember, on Earth, psychrophilic organisms, cold-loving life, thrive in Antarctic lakes and deep ocean waters near freezing. A civilization on Titan would be utterly alien to us. They would have never seen the sun, never known a sky. Their entire world would be bounded by ice above and rock below. They would navigate by sensing pressure waves, electromagnetic fields, or chemical gradients. They might communicate through bioluminescence, like Earth's deep-sea creatures, creating complex languages of light in the darkness. They would have no concept of fire, because water can't burn. But they would understand ice, pressure, and the flow of currents in ways we never could. Their technology, if they developed any, would be based on principles we can barely imagine. Bioengineering rather than metallurgy. Acoustic manipulation instead of electronics. Controlled biochemistry rather than combustion. But here's the haunting question. If such a civilization exists, how would we ever know? If they lived entirely within the subsurface ocean, developing and thriving in that hidden realm, what traces would they leave that we could detect from orbit? The answer, disturbingly, is possibly none. At least not with our current technology. The ice shell of Titan is estimated to be 10 to 30 miles thick. Our radar can penetrate only a tiny fraction of that depth. We've never sent a submarine to Titan's subsurface ocean. We've barely scratched the surface of understanding this world. In 2017, a controversial paper published in the journal Astrobiology suggested that anomalies in Titan's atmospheric chemistry could potentially be explained by the presence of methane-based life consuming specific molecules in the lakes. The data wasn't conclusive, and many scientists disputed the interpretation, but the fact that such a paper was seriously considered shows how far the conversation has evolved. There's another, even more speculative possibility. What if a civilization existed on Titan millions or billions of years ago and is now extinct? What if we're seeing the remnants of biological activity, fossilized in the ice or preserved in chemical signatures without realizing what we're looking at? On Earth, it took humans only about 200,000 years to go from stone tools to spacecraft. That's an eye blink in geological time. A civilization could rise and fall on Titan, and unless we looked at precisely the right moment in cosmic history, we'd miss it entirely. The Silurian hypothesis, proposed by scientists Adam Frank and Gavin Schmidt, asks a chilling question. If an industrial civilization existed on Earth millions of years before humans, would we be able to detect it? Their conclusion: maybe not. Erosion, subduction, and geological recycling erase most traces. Only certain chemical signatures might remain, and only if you knew what to look for. Apply that to Titan, and the mystery deepens. A civilization in the subsurface ocean, rising and falling over millions of years, might leave absolutely no trace detectable from orbit. We would need to send probes into the ocean itself, drill through the ice, and explore the depths with submarines designed for alien seas. And that brings us to perhaps the most intriguing question of all. If such a civilization exists or existed, could they know about us? Could they have sent their own explorers to the surface, to the moons and worlds above them, to Earth itself? Let's return to those ancient myths with a new perspective. Throughout history, cultures have reported visitations, beings from the sky, knowledge that seemed to come from beyond human understanding. Most of these stories are dismissed as mythology, superstition, or misunderstood natural phenomena. But what if a fraction, even a tiny fraction, had a different origin? The ancient Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki, beings who came from the heavens to Earth. The Dogon people of Mali possessed detailed knowledge of the Sirius star system, including the existence of Sirius B, a white dwarf companion star invisible to the naked eye, centuries before modern telescopes confirmed it. Egyptian hieroglyphs depict strange objects in the sky. Indian epics describe vimanas, flying machines with capabilities that sound remarkably like modern descriptions of advanced aircraft. Mainstream archaeology explains these as myths, cultural stories, or misidentified astronomical phenomena. And in most cases, that's probably correct. But let's engage in a thought experiment. If a civilization existed in Titan's subsurface ocean, and if they developed to a point of technological sophistication, they would face a profound challenge: the ice ceiling above them. They would know, through seismic sensing or other means, that their ocean has boundaries. They would wonder what lies beyond the ice, just as we wondered what lies beyond Earth's atmosphere. If they developed the capability to breach that ice, to send explorers to the surface, they would emerge into an environment utterly hostile to their biology. The surface of Titan would be to them what the vacuum of space is to us: instantly lethal. They would need protective suits, vehicles, technology to survive even briefly in that frozen alien landscape. But if they succeeded, if they reached the surface and looked up, they would see something breathtaking: Saturn filling the sky, the most magnificent sight in the solar system. They would see the rings, impossibly thin and bright. They would see other moons moving through the orange haze. And they would realize, just as we did when we first looked up, that they were not alone in the universe. Would such beings be content to stay on Titan? Or would they, like us, be driven to explore, to visit other moons, other worlds, perhaps even the inner solar system? This is where speculation becomes almost fantasy, but let's follow the thread. If Titanian explorers could somehow reach Earth, they would find a world of unimaginable brightness and warmth, a planet covered in liquid water, the very substance that makes up their ocean, but here, flowing freely on the surface. They would find life, complex and diverse, adapted to this blazing hot world orbiting close to the sun. Would they make contact, or would they observe from a distance, knowing that communication with beings so different might be impossible? If they visited ancient Earth, human civilization would have been primitive by comparison. We would have interpreted them through the lens of our mythology, our gods and spirits, our limited understanding. Is this what happened? Almost certainly not. The distances are vast, the challenges enormous, the probability remote. But the universe is large and old, and improbable things, given enough time and space, sometimes happen. There's another possibility, even stranger. What if civilizations throughout the cosmos leave messages, markers, information encoded in places where it might survive for millions or billions of years? On Earth, we've tried to do this with projects like the Voyager Golden Records, messages sent into space for any future civilization that might find them. What if Titan contains such markers, not from Titanians, but from other civilizations that visited the Saturn system long ago? Ice is an excellent preservative. Materials buried in Titan's ice or submerged in its ocean could remain intact for geological ages. What if beneath the surface lies evidence of visitation from a civilization that thrived when our solar system was young, long before Earth gave birth to life? The cosmic microwave radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, contains tiny fluctuations that some scientists half-jokingly suggest could encode messages from an earlier universe or an advanced civilization. This is called the simulation hypothesis, or panspermia of information. The idea is wild, but it's been published in peer-reviewed journals and discussed by serious physicists. If information can be encoded in the very structure of space-time or in the building blocks of matter, then Titan, with its complex organic chemistry, its layers of ice recording billions of years of history, its subsurface ocean, isolated from the chaos of the surface, might be one of the best places in the solar system to preserve ancient cosmic messages. We won't know until we look. And looking, really looking, requires more than orbiting spacecraft. It requires presence, exploration, boots on the ground, or rather, submarines in the ocean.
NASA is planning to return to Titan. The Dragonfly mission, scheduled to launch in 2027 and arrive at Titan in the mid-2030s, will send a nuclear-powered drone to fly through Titan's atmosphere and land at multiple sites across the Moon's surface. This will be one of the most ambitious missions in the history of space exploration. Dragonfly will analyze Titan's organic chemistry, search for signs of past or present life, and help us understand the processes that created the complex molecules coating the surface. It's a revolutionary mission. But it won't drill through the ice. It won't reach the subsurface ocean. That mission, the one that could truly answer whether life exists beneath Titan's ice, is still decades away. It would require technology we're only beginning to develop: autonomous ice-penetrating robots, submarines that can operate in liquid methane and water, communication systems that can work through miles of ice. But scientists are working on it. The Europa Clipper mission to Jupiter's moon Europa is testing technologies that could eventually be used on Titan. Autonomous underwater vehicles developed for exploring Earth's oceans are being adapted for alien seas. Nuclear power systems that could sustain a mission for years in the outer solar system are in development. Within your lifetime, possibly within the next 20 to 30 years, we may send a probe into Titan's subsurface ocean. That probe will carry sensors unlike anything we've built before. It will taste the water, analyze its chemistry, search for organic molecules that might indicate life. It will listen for sounds, look for movement, probe the ocean floor for structures that might be biological or geological, or something in between. What will we find? The honest answer is, we don't know. We might find nothing but water, ammonia, and dissolved salts. We might find simple microbes, single-celled organisms eking out an existence around hydrothermal vents. We might find complex ecosystems filled with alien life forms adapted to the eternal cold and darkness. Or we might find something that challenges everything we thought we knew about life, intelligence, and our place in the cosmos. We might find evidence of civilization, past or present. We might find ruins, technology, or messages left by beings who existed when Earth was still a ball of molten rock. The probability of that last scenario is low, but it's not zero. And that's what makes Titan so captivating.
Titan hangs in the Saturnian sky, a frozen enigma 746 million miles from Earth. It's a world where methane rains from the sky, where rivers carve through ice as hard as stone, where a hidden ocean larger than Earth's seas lies beneath an alien surface. We've explored the myths, the science, and the tantalizing possibilities that this distant moon presents. We've asked questions that our ancestors asked when they looked up at the stars and wondered, are we alone? Is there wisdom hidden in the cosmos, waiting to be discovered? The truth is, we don't know yet. But for the first time in human history, we have the tools to find out. We're on the verge of answering questions that have haunted us since we first became conscious beings capable of wonder. Could Titan hold lost civilizations? Could life, even intelligent life, exist in that dark frozen ocean? Are the myths of ice worlds and cosmic mysteries more than just stories? Soon, very soon in the timescale of the cosmos, we'll begin to find answers. And those answers, whatever they are, will change us. They'll reshape how we see ourselves, our world, and the infinite strange beauty of the universe we inhabit. The cosmos is full of mysteries. Titan is just one of them. But it might be the mystery that finally shows us we're not alone. That intelligence can arise in the most unlikely places. that the universe is far stranger, far more wonderful than we ever imagined. This is Myths of the Cosmos. If you want to explore more mysteries of the universe, more stories where ancient wisdom meets cutting-edge science, subscribe to our channel, because the cosmos has secrets to share, and we're just beginning to listen. Until next time, keep looking up and keep wondering. The universe is full of surprises.